everybody, how are you guys? I hope you guys are good. It's a beautiful day outside, so I hope you guys are having an awesome day. Alright, I want to take some time and talk about Lori Vallow, Doomsday cult mom, finally on trial for the deaths of her 2 children and Chad's wife, Tammy. Okay? Finally, maybe some justice for Tylee and JJ. So those of you that don't know this story, those of you that are new to this, let me just break it down for you, recap, and tell you what's going on. So, Lori Vallow is being charged with murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and grand theft. Okay? Jury selection began Monday for her trial. She is accused of killing 2 of her children, Tylee, 16-year-old Tylee, and 7-year-old JJ. And also, she's also being charged with conspiracy to commit murder for Tammy, who is her husband's wife that ended up DEAD. Okay? So the children both disappeared. Sorry. Okay, so the children both disappeared in September of 2019. They had not been seen since September of 2019. But they were not actually reported missing until November of 2019, because every time that JJ's grandparents or Lori's other son or anything tried to reach out to get into contact with the kids, Lori would make up some excuse. I mean, she said everything from they're with the grandparents to they're with this friend and this family friend to just don't worry about it, they're safe. You know, so everybody was just, you know, nobody knew. But then they started, JJ's grandparents really started going, I have not talked to or seen or heard from JJ in months. So what's going on here? But anyway, prosecutors believe that she was obsessed with doomsday-focused religious beliefs, right? Police found, her family, so this is what her family had to say. Lori's family said that she had long been obsessed with death and the afterlife and all that, but her marriage to Chad Daybell, who was a doomsday evangelist and also an author. Once she married him and got in with him, she got she got pushed much deeper into her beliefs, okay? Now, that's what the family says. But I'm going to tell you that I watched the Netflix documentary on this case, and her mother, Lori's mother, is totally in denial. Totally in denial. Which is, you know. But anyway, so for all this time, nobody could pin anything on them, right? The police actually found Lori and Chad in Hawaii, okay, having a ball, just having a great time, no kids. No kids. All right? Now, she said that she believed that that her children had been possessed and taken over by zombies, that she had to kill them. Okay? I don't believe that she's not stupid, and I don't believe that she's that, because if she really thought that she did nothing wrong and she was doing the right thing, then she would have told police what she did. She wouldn't have been running all around trying to hide what she had done. She would have came right out and said, yeah, listen, they weren't my children anymore. They were possessed, blah, 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 whatever the case would have been. But she didn't do that. She hid everything. She tried to hide the fact that they were missing. She didn't want to answer to nothing, which tells me that she knew that what she was saying was bullshit, right? Or did she? Or didn't she? You know, was she a normal person with a high level of odd beliefs, let's just say, And Chad, because some people believe that Chad brainwashed her into thinking her kids were evil. Some people think that he got it into her head because what he had done is he had made a list of all of her like relatives, her children, everybody's names, right? All of her people's names. And he had a, whether they were light or dark, of a spirit, right? Or a soul or whatever, whether they were of the light or whether they were of the dark. And both of her children, actually all three of her children, he had said were dark. And Tylee was the highest number of dark. So it was ranked on numbers, like 1 through 6, like a staircase, and in their how dark they were, how light they were, right? So all of her kids were dark, according to him. So did he brainwash her into doing this? Or no, she's just as batshit crazy as he is, right? Or is she just an evil, cold-hearted murderer, right? So anyways, so they were reported missing in November of 2019, okay? Police never found their remains until June of 2020. All right? And they found them on Chad Daybell's property. JJ's remains had been buried in a pet cemetery. 7 years old. His remains were buried in a pet cemetery. Tylee had been dismembered and burned in a fire pit. Now my thing is, if you watch the Netflix documentaries and they show you like home videos and stuff, Tylee was very protective of JJ. She was like, I am his mother. Like, she was very protective of him. She was like Mama Bear, right? So obviously I feel like they obviously took out her first and then took out JJ. Because Tylee was big enough where she would have never let them touch JJ for sure, right? So they were found on his property in June of 2020, all right? Vallow and Daybell were not indicted on murder charges until May of 2021. So this has been an ongoing thing. Lori and Chad began 2019, okay, right? Lori and Chad began the year 2019, both married to other people. By the end of 2019, they were married to each other, and both of their spouses were dead. Yeah, crazy, right? Lori and Chad Daybell got married 2 weeks after Chad Daybell's wife Tammy was gone. 2 weeks after they allegedly killed her, she was gone, right? I mean, 2 weeks after they got married. That's how little they cared. And her ex, Charles, I think his name was murdered. Yeah. And this woman is, in my opinion, I get the thing that she is so very manipulative and she's so used to getting everything she wants and getting away with whatever because of how she looks. But I mean, look at her now. A lot of good that did her, right? But no, finally, now we may get some justice. These people did this to these children and to their spouses. And now finally they might have to pay for it. So let's go ahead and watch this video about the trial, what's going on, jury selection, and I'll be right back with you.
In the murder trial of Lori Vallow started today at the Ada County Courthouse. She's the Rexburg mom charged with murder and conspiracy to commit murder in the deaths of her 2 children, JJ and Tylee, and her husband's late wife, Tammy Daybell. We have team coverage today. News Channel 7's Shira Matsuzawa and Morgan Romero We're inside the courthouse as jury selection played out through the day. They join us live now from outside the courthouse. Let's start with Shira with the latest on jury selection. Shira?
Well, Doug, since we last saw you on the news at noon, a different pool of jurors made their way into the courtroom, but they were asked the same question. Questions like, will they be able to make the certain time commitment allotted for this case? And in this case, that's up to 8 weeks. Now, some jurors, many of them were excused because they simply couldn't make that time commitment, citing work or medical obligations. But take a look now. These are sketches from inside the courtroom. Lori Vallow appeared in court wearing a black cardigan with a bluish greenish shirt inside. But the goal of today's jury selection is essentially to find a person who has heard nothing of this case or maybe has some knowledge of it but can still remain fair and impartial. In fact, one of the questions asked today was if any of the potential jurors have heard of Lori Vallow or know her or are related to her. And in a case like this, where there has been extensive media coverage and Netflix documentaries as well as podcasts, that can be a difficult process. But today's hearing, or during today's proceedings, there were actually a handful of people who said they had no idea who Lori Vallow is. As we reported last week, 1,800 potential jurors were summoned, and they were given questionnaires to dwindle down that number. Today's jury selection is closed to the public, but we were able to watch from a remote hearing room, also being referred to as an overflow room. In that room, there was a projector screen displaying 3 angles. There are a camera on the judge, one on the defense with Lori Vallow and her attorney, and then a third camera pointed at the prosecution. Now, they're looking for 18 jurors total, 12 jurors and 6 alternates. They brought in a pool of 15 potential jurors. One failed to show. The second poll also had 15 people. And we are expecting one more group of potential jurors. But as we mentioned, this case, they summoned 1,800 people. And I spoke with Dave Leroy, a criminal defense attorney, as well as former Idaho Attorney General. And he says that is a historically large number for a pool of jurors here, or a potential pool of jurors here in Idaho. And let's get right over to Morgan Romero, who is also here at the courthouse. And Morgan, I know you've been tracking jury selection since before it began today. Give us some background.
Shira, you touched on so much of what has been brought up throughout this entire case, right? Is the publicity around it. And what they're trying to do is get to a fair and impartial jury. We don't know, of those 1,800 that filled out the questionnaires, how many jurors were showing up today or throughout the week. But we do know that, as Shira mentioned, they were interviewed in panels. Judges and attorneys I talked to both said they owe it to not only the prosecution, but also the defense to have a fair trial. During voir dire, which is what it's called, jury selection today, they asked about pretrial publicity in the media and how and if that would impact any of their considerations on the elements of the case and if they could be those impartial jurors. That media attention and the length of the case, as Shira mentioned, is why they're having 18 jurors, 6 are alternates, 12 are those permanent jurors. Ada County Administrative Judge Stephen Hippler told me last week they'd rather start out with a lot of people than not enough. 6 is more than normal, but if somebody sees the wrong newscast or hears the wrong radio station, it can of course pose a problem. They don't want anything to influence jurors. They're asking people to give up 8 to 10 weeks of their lives, which is a long time to be away from people's families, from their jobs during the day. They also know this case will take a toll on people's mental health, seeing and hearing the evidence and the arguments. The judge does not want to have to sequester the jury, meaning taking them away from the rest of society. Hippler said he believes people in Ada County really take their oath to be a juror seriously. Former Ada County Chief Deputy Prosecutor Gene Fisher told me the judge will instruct jurors multiple times regarding their duty to stay off social media, not consume any media around the case, and not talk about it. I asked whether she thinks it's going to be difficult to find that fair and impartial jury I mentioned.
I do think it's going to be difficult. I mean, Ada County certainly provides a much larger jury pool, and that's why they're here. So that's great. I think that picking a jury requires a certain amount of sophistication mixed with intuition, and in the end, your gut. That's really what happens. And there's sophistication in the beginning of this by being organized, knowing what your themes are, looking for the juror that's going to be fair and impartial, and watching and cueing for not only what they're answering to, but body language and how they're participating on the other side, what they're answering for the defense. What does their body language look like then? It's a lot of sophistication, but in the end, it's really intuition and gut. And that's why the defense attorney and their client get to also pick, it goes back and forth.
between the defense and the prosecution, they have to get the pool down to 42 jurors, which could happen at any point. This is according to a spokesperson for the prosecution who was in that overflow room today. She says they're already halfway there, so they've got 17 of them so far. Once they get down to 42, the process gets more nitty-gritty. The attorneys are able to ask more targeted questions. And of course, once they get to those 18, that will be the official jury panel. Although this trial is being held here at the Ada County Courthouse, this is still Fremont County's case. So Judge Steve Boyce still overseeing this case from Eastern Idaho. He brought in his own team, the prosecution and the defense also from Eastern Idaho. All that said, though, this is certainly impacting Ada County facilities and Ada County staff. I'm going to talk more about that coming up in the 4:30 half hour. Doug?
Yeah, certainly a lot of preparation going into this high profile of a case with national interest. Morgan, we'll see you at 4:30.
All right, you guys. So we're pretty much caught up. For those of you that didn't know anything about this case, those of you that are interested in watching justice prevail and watching how this thing goes, keep it right here because we will be doing coverage of the entire case. All right, so let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Please hit that thumbs up. Please sub to the channel. Anybody wants to do anything extra, links are all down in the description below. I love you guys. Stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe. Keep asking those hard questions and keep spreading that light. I will see you next time.